So I was out shopping today, and then I brought my mask home, and I sprayed it with antiseptic stuff.
Yeah.
And I threw it back on, and then I think I've learned what huffing is all about.
That's great.
So, yeah, it was something, but I took it off right away. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like some people might.
So I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad my brain's with me at the moment.
I don't know.
Kids, don't try this at home.
Let's see. First, the recording wasn't working, and then you forgot to. So, I don't know if that stuff affected you or not. Jury's still out.
I don't. Nobody knows what's wrong.
Nobody knows.
No. So we're still quarantined. We're not even counting anymore, I don't think.
You know what? And it's coming back again. Did you hear the announcement today?
Yeah, I heard they're closing more stuff today.
The thing is, people, if we just do it like New York, no deaths yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, none. Well, none related to COVID.
Well,
that was the first time since the whole pandemic. But, just to see what they've done. And then just to see we were doing so good. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to go out and the sun came out and
everybody partied.
Yeah.
Party with their friends.
So, 3-4 weeks, let's do it and just get it over with.
So, welcome to Rock and Roll Confessional.
This episode, we are joined by the one and only frontman for the band, yes, John Anderson. John has released a new album called 1,000 Hands. That's so amazing. I love it.
How many times have you heard it, Rita?
I've usually listened to like 1 or 2 songs an hour at a time. It's my meditation stuff.
It is.
Yeah, no, I love it.
No, I know you haven't put it down for, I think, a month, at least a month we've had it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
John talks about the album that he gave us a month ago. Plus, he gives us the lowdown on the 50-plus artists that joined him on this album that he began recording 30 years ago.
Whoa. We also hear about John going to his first Beatles show with his brother and meeting at separate times Ringo and Paul, and also about his writing his music. And then we discussed the fourth dimension with the fairies.
Yep, we go there.
We're going to go somewhere. That's where we're going to go.
As you'll hear at the beginning of the interview, John starts off telling us about how he's been living with a broken foot since the pandemic began.
So now open up your hearts and your minds and join us for the spiritual journey with John Anderson.
About one person who died in this whole area, the San Luis Obispo area. So we're kind of cool. But I haven't been out for 3 months, except to go and get my x-ray.
Oh, wow.
I broke my foot 3 months ago.
Oh.
The day we were told to stay indoors. So
well, that's a lesson. Life telling you got to stay inside. I guess you got to listen.
It worked out great. Yeah. Except my wife, bless her, she had to learn to cook and wash up and carry things because I couldn't carry anything because I had a big boot on. I've still got it on, actually.
Yeah.
And God bless her, she had to make fires because it was cold. 3 months ago, it was cold. She had to go out and get the wood and make fires and clean up. And 2 months of that, and she was so happy when I could wash up. And when I could cook.
John, why is it that your wife has to go gather wood to make a fire?
Well, it's in the woodshed here. We live in the country.
Okay, and you don't have an oven or a stove?
No, we have a fire. We have a fireplace.
Oh, for the fireplace. Got it.
Oh, sorry.
I thought it was for the cooking.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
I don't think she wants to bring in any more.
No.
Wood for cooking now.
No. But she was brilliant. She picked it up, the cooking thing, and I'd be sort of sitting on the couch with my foot on something so to rest my foot, and I'd be shouting out, "Okay, now put the beans on now." And then afterwards, put the toast on, and then it should balance out. It should be okay. She was quite amazing.
Well, that was very kind of her to help you during your hard time.
She's always been my fairy princess, in a sense, because we're so connected to the nature of things. And she's a bird lady. She loves birds, and they love her. But now she's a goddess.
It seems like she's always been a goddess. I've seen some videos where you guys are still very much in love, and it's really.
Yeah.
I think it was a fan that might have edited all these videos together of her on stage with you and coming out and playing, and it was really beautiful to see those.
Yeah. Yeah, we got into trouble when we were dancing on stage. It was kind of funny. Rick Wegman, why are you dancing when I'm playing? Because we're having fun, Rick.
There you go.
That's beautiful.
Want to thank you so much for taking your time to do this. My name is Rita.
Hi, Rita.
And I'm CW.
CW.
We met many years ago during some Rockline shows that I used to be at, and I think I think the band came to KLOS. You guys
several times.
Came to KLOS a few times.
Yeah, CW. I found some chocolate in my pocket.
Well, thank you. Please go ahead and eat it.
No, I'll save it. I'll save it for later. Woo.
We're recording, right?
Yes, of course we are.
Okay, good. John Anderson, I cannot thank you enough for this album. This is the perfect album for the pandemic. I mean, it has given me such joy, such hope, and optimism. Thank you so much. I love this record.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Didn't think about that, but hey, because I started making it in Big Bear, up in Big Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
30 years ago. That's how long it takes to make this record. Music is timeless anyway. So
yes, it is. I mean, there's just so much in this record. I'm honestly very touched by it. And I know that whenever I listen to it first thing in the morning, it's like makes my day better.
Oh, good.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
To me, it's kind of a spiritual album. It reminded me of like a Buddhist meditation because at the beginning and the end, I hear this little chime that I've heard during meditations. And then from that chime at the beginning, we go into all these different songs, but they're all very uplifting and upbeat and incredibly enlightening, like Rita said, especially for the times now.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because 2/3 of the songs were written 30 years ago, and I was still in the same mindset that I am now, which is fantastic. It happens that 3 years earlier, I'd met this little lady from Honolulu near the airport. She was staying with some people there from Hawaii. I was told I should meet this lady, and I kept saying, well, I'm making a record. I haven't got time to meet another guru. I've met 2 or 3 of them. They're very nice, but, I'm busy. No, you've got to meet her. She's special. So this lady that asked me to go is named Linda Livingston. And she actually, years later, introduced me to my wife, which is amazing. So I kept saying, no, I can't really. And then she said, she's here tomorrow. And I said, okay. And Linda said, oh, and I'll take you to Disneyland afterwards. I said, cool, okay, we got a deal. So I went to this house near the airport, walked in, and there was this little beautiful old lady called Divine Mother Flora. She was there surrounded by flowers and everything, sitting on the couch, little white robes and everything. She reminded my mother, actually. So I sat in front of her and she said, oh, yeah, She didn't know how I was, and she said to me, so you're very ripe. Have you been trying to meditate? I said, yeah, I've been trying for 15 years. I can't get there, I can't get to that place of omness, whatever it is. And she looked at me and said, okay, let's try. So we went into meditation. Of course, I went straight to this beautiful place of energy, like a beautiful, I can't explain it. And after 15, 20 minutes, I came back to where I was and I looked at her and said, that was wonderful. What the heck was that? And she said, that's meditation. So now you got to practice to get back there. So I thought, okay, I'll try my best. And she said, here's some words that you can say. And I said, thank you. Then I went to France and I felt really confused because it's very hard to remember the words. So I wrote a song about it with the words. I remembered I was on tour with Yes, and this is about 3 months later, and I'd started to really get that sort of same beautiful energy of meditation, of nothingness, to say what it is with a beautiful indigo light energy so around. So I was in Chicago and I just finished a gig, and, you're on tour, everything's hyped up, I thought, I can't meditate this week at all. I haven't had time. I mean, I haven't found that place of calmness, So I had her phone number, Divine Mother Flora, and I called her up and said, oh, John, how are you? I said, I'm fine, but I'm having trouble meditating. She said, oh, don't worry, I'll be there in a minute. Put the phone down. So I put the phone down, and I went back into meditation mode, and ding, there she was.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. When it came to doing first songs for what became 1,000 Hands, I was in a really good place emotionally and spiritually, learning much more and feeling very free up in Big Bear. So when I wrote songs like Come Up, it was the answer to the Proposition 3542, because at that time, whenever I drove anywhere, there were these placards in everybody's garden, Proposition 33,
okay.
Vote yes, or no. That kind of thing was happening. So I just molded that song into the idea, the Proposition 3542, everything begins and ends with you.
Yeah.
It's like it all came together very, very quick. So
yeah, I was wondering if that was based on numerology or if it was based on something like from Human Design or something like that.
No, it was just in passing that I kept seeing these placards.
I love it.
But that's how, songwriting can be part of what's going around and what's emotionally going around at the time. From my earliest days with Yes, I would write things that I didn't know what I was saying. I was writing a season which could call you from the depths of your disgrace and rearrange your liver to the solid mental grace and achieve it all with music that can quickly from afar, then taste the fruit of man recorded losing all against the hour.
So what's that mean, John?
Exactly. It was only years later I discovered it was sort of higher consciousness speaking, because I'd sing it when I was doing the song. I remembered, I thought I wanted to have a very mantra sort of intro. This is like 74, I think. Yeah. And so I'm singing with the guitar and da 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 da. And then you rearrange. So you do a recording. You get, what am I trying to sing? And I could, I got to write that down because I can hear what I'm trying to sing, because I'm thinking about it and singing it at the same time in my mind. So over the years, I've sort of developed a very, very logical way of hearing what I'm trying to sing lyrically.
I love how you write the lyrics, and then if someone were to ask you, what does it mean? You're like, I'm not sure yet. No, check back in 20 or 30 years and I'll explain it.
Yeah. A season which can call you from the depths of your disgrace. Very, very simple idea that your higher self will tell you when you're going through hard times and bring you out of the hard times into a light. Soon, oh, soon the light, that kind of thing. Anyway.
You seem to really exist on a different vibration than the average person. No, I mean it. I'm saying that with all sincerity. You really tuned into whatever that is.
Here's the key. We all have the same connection with the divine. And that's what I learned over the years, that we're all connected to the divine. And it's how you aspire to enjoy the day, or aspire to enjoy the company you keep, or aspire to enjoy the weather and the birds and the bees and everything like that, and the trees. I was singing about the trees yesterday. I used to climb trees when I was about 5 or 6 years old, like we all do, don't we, CW?
Absolutely.
Me too.
When we don't have a broken leg.
Yeah. But you climb up, and then you climb up to the view, and the view is gorgeous, and you sit there for a long time just looking at the view, and then you climb back down or fall, whichever way. But the idea is, as I've got older, I've enjoyed life more and more and more. Obviously, I have my terrible times and go crazy at times and shout and go crazy if the sound guy gets it wrong in a show, because the audience deserve perfection.
Well, it seems like you're very much in the moment also. You're always, you've learned to become very present.
Yeah, living in the now, because there was a book in the 60s. It was called Now, and every hippie carried one round, and I had one, and it was all about being in the now and the moment. My son, years ago, he actually got me a birthday present. Out of the blue, he said, "Dad, I've got you a birthday present." And it was a watch. And I looked at it, and it just said, "Now."
Wow.
I love that.
It didn't say
That is great. And no hands on it?
No hands or anything. You said, "Now."
Now, which is beautiful.
Beautiful.
There's something about you that you seem to be blessed with the wisdom of several lifetimes. And I mean that in the most sincere, positive way. I mean, on the air many times, and I mean this with all reverence, I've called you the cosmic choir boy. You know, it's just like your music is kind of like in touch with that thing that everybody, I think, strives to get to, but you incorporate all that stuff from past lifetimes too, it seems.
I believe you're correct. And I've had some very interesting events happen in my life to tell me where I've been before. I was lucky to go to China in 1989. I decided to go to Hong Kong. I went to see my spiritual teacher, Divine Mother Flora, in Hawaii. And then I went on to Hong Kong and went to Guilin, which is southern China. And in those days, it wasn't westernized very much in China. It was amazing. I remember getting off the plane in Guilin, but it's very famous for its lakes and very tall, thin mountains in the lakes that have got little houses on. It's the most beautiful, incredible place. I remember getting off the plane. We flew from, it was just me and people, and people everybody on the plane was smoking. Oh. It was amazing. So I got on the plane, everybody smoked all the way to Guilin from Hong Kong, and got off the plane. I was looking for fresh air. I got out there. It was a very small airport with a big red Chinese sign like that. And underneath there was a big white banner, and it said, "Peace, Love, Tourism." And I said, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." And I kept thinking, I've been here before. Well, it was probably about 6 months later, I was in New York, and I went to have my hands read, like, what do they call them?
Palm reading.
Palm reader. And she said, "Oh, you're obviously in China in the last century, and your mother, she was a medicine woman, and you rode on your bike everywhere delivering medicine to villages." And I said, "I knew I'd been on bikes before," sort of thing. That was kind of the vibe. Maybe it weren't bikes or whatever. It could have been a donkey.
With fast
But that's
wheels.
what I did then,
Yeah.
It's funny that I had a most extraordinary event happen in Vegas, of all places. Vegas is not exactly what it seems to be. It's a very powerful place on highly evolved spiritual level. Have you ever seen those movies by Wim Wenders?
I've seen a few, yeah. It's a piece of, you two did some stuff with him.
So far away, so close.
Yeah.
That's one of them. The angels are around all the time, but we don't notice them because they're angels, sort of thing. And I met one in Vegas, of all things.
Huh.
I'd just seen, with the band, we did a show and everything. We went to see Frank Sinatra in the Caesar's Palace. And it was amazing. Frank Sinatra was unbelievably good. The magic of him on stage, just by himself. We had an orchestra at the back there, but just him on stage and the way he moved. And he'd do that when he wanted a big note. He'd just move his arm and kick. New York, New York, whatever. And he sang Send in the Clowns. And he looked like a Mandarin to me. He looked like an ancient Mandarin. So after that event, I wanted to see him. I really wanted to meet him. So idiot that I am, everybody else in the band, they all went to a big party. We're going to a party, it's Vegas. I said, "No, I'm okay." So I just wandered around the stage door. And I found out later, he would never use the stage door. He had his own little tunnel to get from his dressing room to his bedroom. So I sat there looking at people gambling and things, and this little girl actually came up and tapped me on the shoulder from behind. It's about midnight, And she said, I turned around and I said, "Hello." She said, "John, are you ready?" And I said, "What?" She said, "Are you ready?" And I knew she was an angel. I knew it. And I said, "Yep, I'm ready. Thank you." And she ran off, and her parents were at this the door going through the door, and I waved. Okay, I turned around, and there's a guy sitting next to me, like a sort of Jamaican-looking guy, you know. He said, "Hi, John, are you ready?"
Wow.
I said, "Yeah." I think I need to get a drink. So let's go to the bar. Anyway, he said he could, win me $1 million or if I wanted to meet God. And I said, okay, well, I'd like to meet God. It sounded so crazy at the time. But anyway, this wonderful event happened. I went back with him to my room. Everything disappeared. He was chanting, and this couple of wonderful energy beings came and spoke to me about what I do. I sing about soon the light. I was on the tour of Gates of Delirium, the Relayer tour. And they were saying, and now you know what the light is, so you will be singing about the light in the 21st century. And this is like 1975, 76, somewhere around that time. So I said, okay. And, I was on my hands and knees in a trembling piece of jelly because I was with higher angels. And it was an extraordinary event, of course. And then as I'm lying on the bed at the end, and the guy who brought me in there, and I'd asked for his name, but he can never hear an angel's name. I was to learn later. And they'll say something, but you don't know what it is because the angels have got very cosmic. And as he was closing the door, he said, "Oh, by the way, you know William Blake, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, yeah." He said, "Well, learn more about him, okay?" I said, "Bye." Anyway, that's my story. And about a month later, Alan White was doing a solo album. And he asked me to go and sing a song on his album. And it was a William Blake song, the Song of Innocence. So I did that. And over the years, I kind of thought about it and thought, William Blake. And I looked at his work, and I had a book of his work anyway, his artwork and everything, and his poems. And one of the strongest poems that he wrote was... it's a sort of national anthem in England. It's called, the words are, "And did those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains free?" It's a beautiful lyric. And every time they have the proms at the Albert Hall, you have 5,000-6,000 people singing that with the full orchestra and the choir. It's kind of magical. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I started thinking about what I was working on. I've been working on this piece of music now for 3 months. It's just music that I wrote in the space of a week. Just spontaneous 4 pieces of music about hopefulness, joyfulness, gratefulness, thankfulness. And after I'd done the music, I just said, "Oh, it's a lot of fun, that music," and because it's all in sections, So I thought, I'll just put it out on the internet. And my good friend Mike Byrne is a marvelous video guy. He created videos for them so you can actually see and feel the music. And it's all to do with, to me, when I did the music, I thought it was like, what I should do is write songs and lyrics within the music now. So it's like a template, like a blueprint. And I just finished the first round of the 4 pieces, last week. Wow. And it was an incredible feeling to sort of get to that place. And now all I'm going to do is hopefully, find a way to record with the local symphony and the choirs. They have great choirs here in San Luis Obispo.
Thank you for answering the question, Where does music come from?
Yeah.
Which is one of the songs from the new album, 1,000 Hands.
Yeah. Well, that happened very, very simply because when I started working 2 years ago with Michael Franklin, the producer guy, who called me up and said, "Where are those tapes?" And I said, "What tapes?" He said, "Oh, the tapes you did in Big Bear." And I said, "I think they're in the garage. I haven't looked at them for 15 years or so." He said, "Go and check." And so I went and checked. "Oh, they're there." And so I sent the 24 tracks, big boxes, to him, and he put them in his studio. And you can only play them once after you have to bake them. You have to put them in an oven, and you bake them. And you can only play them once, or it'll just fall apart because they've been sitting there for years, And it's straight into the computer, and they sounded lovely. And Michael said, "So, what were your ideas on doing this album?" And I said, "Well, originally it was going to be called Uzlot, U-Z-L-O-T. Which in the north of England, you say, 'Come on, Uzlot, let's go and play soccer,' football, not soccer. 'Come on, Uzlot, let's go and play cricket.'" So that means a lot of us, right? It's very simple. So I said, yeah. Originally, I started writing with a friend of mine. His name's Brian Chatton. He was in my first band, The Warriors, in the 60s. He was a young kid, 16 years old. He could play green onions. So we let him in the band. Anybody who could play green onions, you're in the band. We became great friends, and had so many adventures together over the years. And I just knew that there was something about Brian. So I said, just do some ideas for piano, some song music ideas. And I'll write some songs and lyrics. And that's what we did. So basically, we never got them finished. We just had them, to a certain degree, pretty well organized. There was about 8 tracks. And Chris Squire and Alan White were in LA at the time. So I went down with one of the tapes and asked them to play on the tracks, and I gave them $1,000 each.
Paid
so they
for
were
their
happy.
time.
And I was happy. So Michael Franklin said, I've listened to all the music, some really interesting stuff here. So who would you like to play on the record? I said, well, originally I wanted the Beach Boys to sing on the record because I met Brian Johnson. Well, I was at NAMM. In NAMM there's a music event. I was working with this guy who had this strange keyboard system, and I was up there with a guitar, and we were singing, "Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda, help me." Come on, sing along. 10 people in front of you, and there was Brian Johnson. Wow, it's Brian Johnson of the Beach Boys. So we became friends, and then I went up to talk to him and the other guys about singing on this project. I was very into Wayne Shorter, one of the great musicians, and Billy Cobham, who played with Mahavishnu Orchestra, unbelievable drummer. And so I mentioned this to Michael, and he said, well, Billy Cobham, I've got his phone number, so I'll find out if he can come over and play on one of the tracks. And I said, wonderful. And he got the phone number of Ian Anderson, Tower of Power he knew.
Oh, yeah.
And Chick Corea played on this track that Billy Cobham played on. I'd actually done some work with Jean-Luc Ponty, my brother, my Brittany brother. Mm-hmm. And he got him to play on the track Come Up, it's called. And when I first heard the track Come Up, it sounded really okay, it was going to be good. And then he put Billy Cobham on it, and I said, wow, could you turn the drums up, please, Michael? Yeah, because on the phone I was listening to it. I was listening to it here in my studio. Turn the drums up more. I want to hear Billy Cobham. So he did. And then he added Chick Corea and then Jean-Luc Ponty. It was like magic. It's like, I suppose, making a cake and putting all the beautiful icing all over it and making sure it had a cherry on top. So making sure, because you couldn't believe how good it sounded. And you think, wow, this is pretty cool. And Michael said to me, so what have you been doing lately? Oh, I said, every morning I get up, I go in my studio and I call it vocalizationing. And what it is, basically, is it's something I kind of started doing years and years ago. I did a track called We Have Heaven on an album called Fragile. Mm-hmm. There was some space in the studio downstairs, Chris and Bill working out some routines. And I went downstairs into this empty studio. ELP were working there, but they had the day off. So I just did this vocalizing thing called We Have Heaven. Tell the moon, to tell the March, to tell the moon, and just keep reading, adding vocals all the way. And I've done it over the years, but then Michael said to me, so have you got anything? I said, yeah, I've got these couple of vocalization in things. And he said, well, what are they called? I said, well, one's called Ramalama, and the other one's called Where Does Music Come From? So I sent him just the vocals, and he is a fantastic musician. He actually did most of the sounds for Where Does Music Come From on his flight to China on his computer.
Wow. So
you can imagine where we've come from me going downstairs in the basement of a studio to We Have Heaven, and that took, quite a while, 4 or 5 hours. But the fact that he could just do that like that and send it, he was in China, and he sent it to me and says, look what I've done with your vocalizationing. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And he did it to Ramalama as well. So
Both incredible songs.
Yeah,
I
both of
love
them.
Rama Lama.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another very spiritual song. And maybe you can just kind of quickly tell us about Rama Lama, because it's one of the Indian, I don't know if gods is the right term, is it?
Do you know, I've got no idea. But I believe, I believe it is relating to enlightened something. I've had a couple of different...
One of the Hindu deities, I believe.
There you go. Good.
Okay.
Well, you know more than me.
That's right, because you won't know for another 30 years what your songs are about.
Yeah.
So we'll just make it up for you, John.
Yeah. I was just doing a video for that song. My wife was doing the camera. We were just doing it on the green screen here. And it was just fun to do because on stage with the band, I did some touring last year, 1,000 Hands Band, to do tracks from the album, thinking the album was coming out at that time, but it never really materialized properly, the record deal. So we just toured and we were doing these songs and the audiences loved them. It felt really interesting. Oh, is ready for the answer complete, high above the very simply. I get into writing words that don't mean anything because just sound cool, So that's what happened with those couple of songs.
Now for a quick break.
This just in.
What do you think?
I love
Reed?
John Anderson. I could just sit down and talk with him for hours and hours.
I know. And we did. We had to edit this a little bit short, but we did for quite a while. And he is a very interesting, spiritual,
loving
being. Yes. And very present.
Yeah.
God, I wish I could be like that.
You got some of it down.
I got some of it. I'm only present when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, well, it's break time. We've got more with John Anderson, but Patreon supporters, we want to thank you from the top to the bottom of our hearts. You are the ones that believe in us so much that you are willing to make a small pledge each month to keep this show rolling.
We couldn't do it without you. And one of the perks, as you'll hear in the second half of our show, is that we offer the opportunity for our Patreon supporters to submit questions to some of our guests. If you have it in your heart and love rock and roll stories like we do, please go to the support tab on our website at rockandrollconfessional.rocks, ROCKS, or directly to Patreon to make a small pledge. Every dollar counts, and we appreciate every dollar, trust me.
In our second half, we have more powerful and personal conversation with John Anderson. He talks about the different sounds and instruments that are used on this new album, 1,000 Hands.
And we also go back to 1962, and John talks about starting his first band with his brother, and we get into more mystical enlightenment.
Yes, now get ready for the second half of our interview with John Anderson. Something else I really love about the album is that it really incorporates instruments and sounds from all over the world. I mean, I hear a didgeridoo, I hear, the banjo, obviously things that you would, but there's also some voices in there that I understand are from Africa or something.
Actually, it's interesting because when I was in Big Bear, I went down to LA to my friend Linda Livingston, suggested that I meet Kitaro.
Huh.
Kitaro was doing a show in the theater in Beverly Hills there. The opening act were these 6 women from Belgium. They were called Zap Mama. And I had no idea. Somebody on the microphone said, now, ladies and gentlemen, your life will change. Here is Zap Mama. And these women came on and sort of moved and danced and chanted and sang like you would not believe. It was like a miracle to me. And Michael got them to sing on this album. And they're all over the place. Mm. So there's very ethnic energy. They're a couple of them are from North Africa. So you've got this vocalization energy, then ethnic energy here and there, and cosmic energy. And it's all in a big bucket.
Absolutely love it. I mean, you talked earlier about meditation, and when I first heard the album, it was during the pandemic. It was probably maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that we got the advance of the album, which is going to be out end of July. But I just listened to it, and I went into, one of those states of relaxation that you talk about, and it reminded me so much that I need to slow down sometimes and just get back to what I love, and that's listening to music, being inspired by music. And this album, again, just moved me. So, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, it's just delightful. But I love everything about it. The other list of musicians that you have on there, you mentioned,
oh my God,
like Chris Squire, Alan White, Steve Howe. Does Steve Howe do most of that acoustic guitar that's on the album?
No, I haven't worked with Steve for 20 years or so. I've tried many times to connect and, just not the right time. Originally Now was a 3-minute song. And I kept saying, well, it's a nice song, but it's just too much all in one go. Why don't we just have the first verse and so there in the middle of the album, another verse with some orchestra bits, and at the end we'll finish with Now and Again and add some space energy at the end of the song part, And Michael did one, and I just said to him, look, I actually sang on a Steve Howe album when he did songs with Bob Dylan. I sang Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, which I loved. And I think Steve owes me one.
Yeah.
So, I emailed Steve. Hi, Steve. We've been in touch once or twice a year over the years. And I said, hi, Steve, I'm just doing this album, this track. It just needs your guitar, and then we're finished the album. So could you just, do stuff? He said, no problem. So I sent him the tape and everything. And it came back, and right away I wanted to sing because it's Steve,
Yeah.
And I sang about that we used to be together very close, and we used to sing together. He would sing with his guitar, and I was singing with my voice. And it was a great, wonderful feeling of connection and full circle, the cycle of life.
Yeah.
So it was great, it was really good.
I just wanted to list for our listeners some of the other, just a few. There's like 50 musicians you've brought in for this, but we've also got Steve Morse, Rick Derringer, Pat Travers, Alan White, Tower of Power, Chris Squire,
Tower of Power, yeah.
Carmine Appice, Chick Corea, Jonathan Cain, Bobby Kimball from Toto. And there's about another 35, 40 artists that you brought into this whole thing.
Yes, no, it wasn't my fault. It was Michael. I said, us lot means a lot of us, and he turned around after his trip to China. He said, well, why don't we call it 1,000 Hands? And I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I've been writing, I've been working on ideas of, it's good if you actually write down all the people that inspire you throughout your life.
Sure.
And I did it one time, and I finished up with about 80, 100 people who like Nina Simone and Stevie Wonder and Beatles. I went to see the Beatles movie yesterday.
Which one?
I don't know what it was, but I sobbed all the way through.
Ah.
I actually did. As soon as the guy started doing Yesterday on the guitar.
Yeah.
And the arrangements are beautiful. That movie is so beautiful. But it was something to do with, without the Beatles, I wouldn't be where I am now, So I just sobbed all the way through. I was with my wife, Jane, and my daughter and her husband. My daughter, Jade, and Kit, her husband, kept leaning over and saying, are you okay, John? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just sobbing all the way through the movie. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
So you get a feeling of where you've come from as an artist, as a musician, and what the roads that I've traveled musically over the years. And I'm so grateful.
Who were some of your other inspirations? I mean, you mentioned like Frank Sinatra and the Beatles, but when you were growing up, the young lad in England there.
Well, the story is very, very simple that me and my older brother, Tony, we would sing Everly Brothers songs as we delivered milk around the town that I lived. And we'd work on the local farm and milk the cows and deliver milk when I was 9, 10 years old. I did that. I left school at 14. So up until that time, all I knew was in the 50s was the Everly Brothers and Buddy Holly. And then me and my brother went down south to our auntie for a 2-week stay. And he bought Elvis Presley album and a little record player. And we listened to Elvis Presley all the time. And my brother then had a band in 1962. He had a band called The Warriors. They had 2 singers. One of them a tall guy. He wanted to be a hairdresser, so he left the band. And my brother said to me, would you like to join the band? And I said, yeah, okay, we can do some Everleys. He said, yeah, we'll do some Everly Brothers. And he was going to be Elvis Presley because he liked to think he was Elvis Presley. This is like 1963. We heard this record on the radio, Love Me Do, by the Beatles. And we'd say, hey, we should learn that one because they're from Liverpool. Tony said to me one day, let's go and see them, because they were playing in Southport, which was like 20 miles north of Liverpool. They were playing in the Floral Hall. So me and Tony, on his motorbike, he had a motorbike like, you remember the Wild One?
Yeah.
Marlon Brando?
Mm-hmm.
With a big, and a hat. He had the same thing. He had the hat. He was Marlon Brando then. So we went to see the Beatles and got in there and they just started up. There's a crowd of people, mostly guys, you could hear some girls at the front, no screaming. They were listening to the band, and the band was so good because I'd started singing with the Warriors and we'd rehearsed a bit. And we came to see this, and this was a really professional band. It was amazing. The girls would scream at the end of each song, and whenever John talked or Paul talked, something like that. And it was the strangest experience, like, I want to be a Beatle. Yeah. Like 1,000 other, hundreds of thousands of guys. I want to be a Beatle. That was it. So that's when we started doing the Warriors band touring, touring, wasn't touring. He was doing gigs. He finished up doing gigs in a working men's club, and you go on after the comedian for 3 songs, and then after the stripper for 3 songs, and then after bingo for 3 songs.
That's a full evening.
Well, as a little kid, you must have enjoyed the stripper part.
Believe me, because to get on stage, you had to go through this alleyway to get to the stage, and the stripper would come up and go past you like that, and you go, that put me off sex.
Yeah. Held off the puberty.
We were crazy and wonderful, and basically we followed the Beatle trail because there was a trail we read about. The Beatles started playing in clubs in Cologne, in Munich, in Hamburg. So we went as a band and started doing that. By then the Beatles were, can you imagine what they were doing at the beginning? They were just, please, please me, oh yeah, and love me do, and all these kind of happy love songs, and all of a sudden, Revolver.
Yeah.
And then Abbey Road and the White House.
Sgt. Pepper, yeah.
By the time we got to Hamburg, 67, Sgt. Pepper. So my whole world was, what are they going to do next? How do they do this? I remember we were driving in Germany and we stopped for some petrol. In those days, they had these called transistor radios, about this big. And there was a transistor radio outside the office. And this music was coming from the transistor radio. It's like a little sort of strings and not a big orchestra. It's like a small quartet orchestra. And you could hear it. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. I remember lying down on the floor right next to the transistor radio going, what the hell is this? And it was the Beatles. So,
Did you ever become friends with them? I mean, because late 60s you started Yes.
No. I met Paul McCartney once and I had no idea what to say. He was coming down. He'd come to see the Yes we were playing in London. It was called the Apollo, now it's called the Apollo. And I was going up to the dressing room. He was coming down, and I went, "Oh, McCartney!" He shook my hand and walked back. I think he said, "That was good, lad," something like that. And then I think I've met Ringo a couple of times, but I'd never know what to say to him or George Harrison. John Lennon I never met. But to me, gods. That's all there is to it. And so the movie, got me.
Love that. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about Yes a little bit. Last time I saw you play was probably 2018 at the Greek Theater with Rick Wakeman and the band and Trevor Rabin, and it was just great. It was just magical.
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering what your plans are with Yes. Are you going to continue with Yes or just let it be?
Well, next year is the 50th anniversary of Fragile and the Yes album, so
Okay, then I'll call you. Now, I had a dream last week, which was kind of interesting dream that I was in the room with all the guys from the Yes contingent and Rick and Trevor and a couple of other people from somewhere else. And, and I was waiting to go on stage and do my solo with my guitar, just go on and sing with my guitar, which I love doing. It changes the dynamic when you can just sing to an audience and you're accompanying yourself. Not very well, because I don't play guitar that well, but at least I made it work, So I was thinking, I wonder if that's the way to do it. The Yes Band could start off, and then I'll go on and do some songs, or I'll start the show. I don't care. I'll start and sing some songs, let them play, and then me and Trevor and Rick and then they'll all get together at the end, and we'll all do Close to the Edge and Awaken. Because Awaken is like the true top of the mountain for Yes. Awaken was a very emotional event, musically speaking. But whenever we performed that song, something very, very tangible that's very, very unique. Like a little bit, Close to the Edge. These were very unique pieces of music to the music genre. They weren't things you can hear on the radio, but they were music. And that's how Yes survived, by being music first, and then it'll be challenging ourselves to create ideas that are a little bit different than the norm. That was what 70s was all about, being adventurous. I'm still adventurous. It's my personal goal to make some great music. And people say, what do you mean you want to make great music? Well, I want to make great music. What do I want to do? I'm going to make mediocre music. What am I going to do? I'm going to sit around and make songs that don't really mean anything so much. I'm just going to make some money. No, I'm going to do some great music in my life. And I think I'm getting there slowly. It's a slow process. But it's normal, it's just normal.
Well, you've had a long career with some great, great songs. We have a question from one of our listeners, Kevin Thompson. His question is, when writing Tales from Topographic Oceans and Relayer, were you ever concerned that you were writing 20-minute songs and that you probably wouldn't get supported with radio airplay? Was it a concern to the record companies?
It's a lovely story. When we were on tour with Fragile, there was 8-minute pieces of music on the record. Yours and Notice Grace, Starship Trooper, Roundabout. And as we were driving around Pennsylvania, we heard Roundabout. It came on the radio. First time we ever heard it on the radio. And it came to the middle section, and it went straight to the solo and the end. So I said, what happened? I called up Ahmet Ertegun and said, hi, Ahmet, what happened to the records? Is somebody cut it in half? He said, yeah, it's the only way we can get it on the radio. Okay, that's okay. As long as people are hearing the song, that's great. So as we toured around America, we would play a lot of universities, and we'd go to the radio stations, the university people, and they would play Starship Trooper, which is 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes long. Mm-hmm. Yours Notice Grace, 9 minutes, and roundabout full, And it got me thinking, wait a minute, and it's called FM radio. You know, CW, you probably know.
Oh, yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, spent FM most radio. Of our lives there.
Yeah, and wow, they actually play long-form pieces of music. And I've been thinking about doing a longer piece of music, and me and Steve were really tight at that time in terms of, like, musical brothers. We got to create new songs. We'd done quite a bit on Fragile, but I just sensed there was something about Steve had so much industry with his guitar work and his chords and finding ideas quickly when I came up with ideas. So we got together and we wrote Close to the Edge, because I remember I went to his house and he was, I'm just doing this, John, listen, close to the edge, round by the corner. And I said, down at the end, round by the river, because I was reading Sid Arthur. Sid Arthur finishes up by the river. And I said, change chord. Seasons will pass you by. There's a chord. I get up. Wow. That's how we work. It's just doing it. So we started to sort of, that afternoon, we just sort of put together the sort of shape of Close to the Edge. And I kept thinking, well, the middle of Close to the Edge, we should go into the ocean of energy rather than, because I was very into electronic music and Carlos Castaneda writings. about what energy surrounds us really and this kind of thing. There was a musician called Walter Carlos. Now he's Wendy Carlos, but originally Walter Carlos had written an album called Sonic Seasoning. And it was this beautiful, sort of surreal energy album of music, and beautiful. So I said, the middle of the song, which is going to this wash of sound, you know, I thought, in the middle, we'll just have a very simple song. And Steve was playing these chords, and I started singing I Get Up, I Get Down, which I was singing about 2 million people barely satisfy, 200 women watch one woman cry, too late. The idea that, you know, those days we were hearing more and more about the malnutrition of children in Africa and the lack of food all over the world, etc., when we are abundant with food, etc., just like now. Nothing's changed that much. And I was singing about that. So we actually put down that song, Idea, and a couple of days later, Steve said, do you know, I've just realized those chords, I wrote a song. And I said, well, sing it to me. He went, drink in her white lace. You could clearly see the lady sad looking. And it fit perfectly with my song. And I said, that's it. That's the middle stanza. I learned the word stanza.
Stanza.
That's what you talk about when you're composing a symphony. Anyway, so where was I? That was the idea of creating long-form music simply because the FM radio was happening in America. Yeah. And nobody knew about it but me and somebody else. But unfortunately, by the time we finished the album, FM closed up in America because it wasn't making any money. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to AM within the space of 2 months, 3 months, and our album came out. And it was like, okay, let's get on the road and we'll perform it. You know, and we went out and performed that music. And that was the joy of the 70s. We would go out and play 5,000 people because Roundabout actually brought a lot of people in. But we could go out there to all these people and play And You and I and, you know, and then your Siberian Catru. Mm-hmm. And perform this music knowing we had an audience that were willing to listen to longer form pieces of music. So the challenge was, will they listen to Close to the Edge? And the only way that it would work, in my mind, we had to really evolve the stage vibe, you know. And Mike Tate, God bless him, who was our roadie initially, then became the stage guy, and now has Tate Towers, one of the biggest production companies in the world. He said, I know, we'll do dry ice in the middle. We had this dry ice all over the stage, and it would pour over the front, and people would go, wow, what the hell is this? So that's what happened. You know, we figured it out by giving the audience more visualization, better lighting, because Michael Tate designed all the lighting styles that are now used by everybody.
Yeah, you guys were always up on that.
Yeah, because we were playing to a large amount of people, and all I would think about, people at the back are just seeing a little person singing away in white, and the little people on stage. Why don't we just give them more energy? Get the laser beams, quick, you know. We were the first to use laser beams. Actually, we weren't the first because Vangelis used them in Paris. And somebody sent me a photograph, and I found out what was happening. We got a laser company in England. It just started. And the laser beam had to be kept cool by a gigantic sort of bath of water. And that traveled all over the world with us. But we could go on stage, and that perfect moment when you need something, soon the light, the laser beams would come out over the audience. And it was like, oh my God. Hence the event in Vegas.
Ah, yeah.
Because laser is from the next dimension. You know, we live in 8 different dimensions. We're in the 3rd, going slowly into the 4th and 5th. That's why we're going through this transition consciously.
And what happens in the 4th? Does it get better?
The fairies live there.
Okay, good.
The light beings, as one might say. We used to be very connected to the fairy kingdom, one might say. That's why we think about it when we're children, and we believe in it when we're kids. And we grow out of it because of the nonsensical understanding that, there's no such thing as Father Christmas. Part of the idea. And he's white. Why is he white? You know, so God's not white. He's multicolored. We are all connected. We are all indigenous people.
Yeah.
We are actually. We're all from indigenous.
Sure.
Way, way back, you know. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't want to get carried away.
No.
No, I could listen to you for hours going, you know.
Sometimes it's seeing is believing. I mean, it's like I didn't believe in ghosts until I saw one and I had an experience with one. And then all of a sudden it's like, now I believe them and I've seen them many times. And
Yep.
to some people, that sounds crazy. And to other people, they're like, oh, tell me more. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that same type of thing that it's like, until
Yeah.
you see it, you don't believe it.
I know.
Well, we're sort of heading slowly to an enlightening period of time. That's why the laser was given to us via the computer, because that's where laser is. You know, you understand that, right?
No, explain.
Well, laser, and everything comes from under the ground.
Okay. Energy.
Everything, what you're sitting on, what you're holding in your hand, everything comes from under the ground. So it's earth projected into form and so on via intellect, conscious waking up to what we can do with iron, what we can do with steel, what we can do with speakers. Hello.
Cell phones.
And we've done very well, you know, to a certain point that we lost our way by neglecting this planet. And that's the delicate balance, the out of balance living that the Native Americans have been telling us for years.
Mm-hmm.
They live in balance with the earth.
That's why we have a virus.
Well, yeah, as I said, this is part of the awakening of the consciousness of the planet, that we are actually all one. It's the first time in history that we are connected, completely connected on one little planet, little tiny planet.
Mm.
It's a leap of faith to know that where we're going is going to be good for us. And we have to share the world. I wrote a 10-point explanation of what I think, and I put it on my website, on my Facebook.
Great. Well,
It connected to a lot of people, because the idea is that once we start to understand that we are the earth, and we are one on the earth, that we are to become enlightened beings, because we all deserve freedom of enlightenment rather than the dogma of a lot of things. And the idea, very simply, is that it's slowly happening. And this virus is a pointer to understand that if we are reckless and go out like a lot of people are doing now in America because the orange man thinks it's cool not to wear a mask, and it's cool to say the most absurd things that come out of this, and he lies all the time.
Yeah.
And it's been proved. It's just a question of everybody waking up to that. And once we reestablish a little bit of normality and Obamaism in America, then you know, this whole thing with Black Lives Matter is so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so unbelievably true. And it's a conversation we need to have also about the Native Americans.
Absolutely. Now, your daughter just recently did a documentary, right, on Native Americans?
God bless her. Yes, yes. I'm so happy and grateful for Deborah, who did this documentary. It's what you watch it and you can't believe half of what you're hearing and what you're watching in this day and age. The Native Americans are still being treated with such disrespect and no love at all. Because obviously, you know, you always get people, well, they've got casinos, yes, and they deserve all our money. God help us. Come on, think about it carefully.
I've been to many of the reservations, like, you know, in New Mexico and in Arizona. The Hopi Nation is one of my favorite, but it's just the amount of poverty that is there. It's just like, this is America. It's just like, how can this be? Why is this happening? Yeah.
The best record of the last 10 years was This Is America.
Yeah.
And the best video. Seriously good.
Yeah.
And deserved all the accolades. But, you know, there's that energy waiting to say stuff and to be stuff and to think stuff. And a lot of it comes through music. And blessings to everybody, because we all deserve it, you know, especially the little children, little tykes.
Yeah.
I've got 3 grandchildren.
How old?
7, 5, 3.
Perfect
and
age.
They're joyful, you know, and like to everybody's got children. We are children. We're still children.
Yes.
Come on. We're children of God.
Yeah.
God, not the best word.
Yeah.
The divine that surrounds us. God loves us. It's okay. I always think of the comedian once he used to say, "You're going to go to damnation. You're going to go, if you don't do, you're going to evil." But he loves you.
Sounds like a Southern Baptist preacher. You're going to go to hell.
They're all the same. They're not real. God, these people are not real. They just want your money. I wrote a song about it. We're going to release it on the next chapter 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
So this is just chapter 1 that we're on.
Yeah, all goes well. There's a chapter 2. We've done a lot of songs for it. So, it's just a wonderful, wonderful time to be alive and experience the slow evolvement of the 2020. I always said on tour last year, I said, 2020 is just going to be like the 60s. And it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are very similar. Yeah.
Except for the free love.
It's crazy, but, we're going through a great time. That's all I can say.
I love the spin that you put on it, that it's a great time, because most people here in America and around the world, I imagine too, are just going, when is this going to end? This is just so, but they're not listening to and not receiving the message that, it's time to take it slow and appreciate what we have. Gratitude.
Look inward.
Yeah.
True.
And look at Mother Nature, as you said.
Everything is here. Church is here. Church.
It's in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks kind of cool. It's so big and frightening, gothic. No, don't need that church thing stuff.
I love the fact that maybe a decade ago you decided to become an American citizen.
Yeah, I was very blessed to meet my wife. Again, Linda Livingston. She introduced me to my wife. I'd been meditating before I met her. I'd seen her in my meditations. Keep jumping up and down, this beautiful girl, waving. Yeah. And then she walked in my house in Hollywood. I was working on an album about Carlos Castaneda. And she walked in and I thought, oh my gosh, she's here. I love you.
Are you ready?
I love you. How are you? Let's get married. I love you. Nice to see you. I couldn't say that, but that's what was going through my mind. And she saved me. She saved my life on many different levels. I'm so blessed.
You had a couple of health issues maybe a decade ago also, and you seem to have recovered very well, but a lot of...
respiratory?
Yeah, was it asthma or...
Yeah, asthmatic.
Okay.
That's why I can't really go out, and
yeah,
that's the way it is. But otherwise, I feel very, very healthy.
Even with the broken foot?
It'll be better. I've got the last X-ray this Saturday, and Jane can't wait for me to drive. And take out the rubbish.
Yeah. Get back to
bring
work.
in the firewood. Come on. We got to cook.
No, it's warm here. No. But thank you very much. It's been lovely talking to you. And it's very rare that I get the chance to talk like this. So
we have what we call, it's our end of show questions, or our bonus round questions.
Oh, good.
So we're going to just throw a bunch of questions at you real quick. And you may have already answered this, but what was your first concert you went to?
I was in a stroller, and my mom, in this little sort of, in my Accrington where I lived, there was a school hall, and I remember being moved in on the stroller, and my mom was serving hot pies and fruit pies and things, and my dad was on the stage, and I remember seeing him, and he was standing there. He had a kilt, and he had a Hitler mustache. This is probably 1945, and he was telling jokes and playing the harmonica. That was my first concert.
Wow.
Who would you want to meet that you've never met?
Oh, boy. So many people I'd like to meet, of course. I think Stevie Wonder, like most people, like most musicians. You want to, you just, hi, Stevie.
Yeah, just such incredible music that he's done as well.
If you were making a documentary film, what rock subject would it be on?
Gosh, you got me there. I don't know.
Okay.
If I'm making a documentary, I should know. I should know what I would want to
The first thing that comes to my mind is something about spirituality of music, something like that you'd be excellent to tell that story.
No, not really.
Okay.
No. Another question.
Okay. What band do you regret never seeing live?
Oh, it's so bizarre. Because I remember in my first band, the Warriors, we would go and open up for a multitude of bands. And one time we went there for Saturday night concerts. And we opened up, and then Bill Haley was on, and Little Richard was on.
Wow.
And Gene Vincent was on, and Eddie Cochran. And
Wow.
the first song I ever sung was Eddie Cochran's song called Something Else.
What is the coolest piece of tour memorabilia you have?
Gosh. Well, I've got an electronic plug-in. It's not a tour thing, no.
Well, that's okay.
Well, I've got...
We don't really have rules. You can make this up.
No. I remember going to, talking about Hopi people. I got on my first time in Los Angeles to stay and work. I was doing an album called Big Generator.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I was flying in, and I read in Time magazine about the Hopi grandmothers are not going to move from the sacred big mountain, the four directions, where the mountain is. And they're not going to move. They're being hassled by the Air Force flying over them very fast, and the young Indians being paid off to go and live in New Mexico. But they won't move, these grandmothers, because the American, whoever, they wanted to strip mine this place. And it's their most sacred place, so they never move. So I read that, and I got to Los Angeles and started thinking about Native American culture, reading more about what I don't know about them, etc. I was working in this studio with a friend of mine who could get me midnight till 6 for free, and I could go in and mess around and make silly music. He called me up and said, hey, there's an event in East LA. It's at the school, and it's for the Hopi grandmothers are coming down to sell some of their wares, So it's an incredible time to go and meet and see what's going on. I said, okay, let's go. And there was about maybe 400 or 500 people, all Native Americans, and Chicanos and some Mexican people and a band playing on stage. And I was mesmerized because I'd look around and I'd see these very strong-looking natives with the neck ornament here, there. And I'd see them and I'd say, yeah, they're the elders. Yeah, I'm not going to speak to them. I don't know. And then this beautiful girl walks past in full regalia of the Native American, wear their beautiful clothes, So I'm following her, and she went to this guy who was in the middle of all these other people. And he's a big guy with braids down here. Just his energy. I said, it's the chief. It must be the chief. So I turned around, and another guy, a white guy, tall, thin white guy with a neck ornament around his neck and beads and things, came walking towards me. He said, John, you've arrived. I said, yeah, who are you? He says, I'm Moon Otter. And he looked at me, he said, Topographic Oceans. And I said, okay, you've arrived. I said, yeah. Well, why are you here? I said, well, I've read about the Hopi grandmothers, and I believe in their stand, for justice and things. And he said, what would you like to do? I said, you see that guy there? He said, oh, that's Long Walker. I said, who's that? He said, well, he walked in 1967. He walked the length of America to tell the government they were doing wrong. And he's called Long Walker. I said, I'd love to meet him. So it's just the way things happen in life,
Yeah.
Eventually I met him, and through his beautiful wife, Jessie, who wouldn't look at me. What do you want? His wife came over. What do you want? He wouldn't look at me. I said, I'd like to meet Long Walker. Why? Well, I'd like to learn, actually. I just like to hear what he has to say about things and just learn. Okay, next Tuesday. So every other Tuesday, me and my friend Gary would go to East LA and sit and listen to Long Walker. We eventually went to Chihuahua with him and some elders to a spring festival there up in the Copper Canyon. And I was in search of Carlos Castaneda at that time because he was supposed to be around that area. It's amazing how life takes you on this journey, So I was making that album, Toltec, when my future wife came into the house. And there was a lot of people around. My two oldest kids were here. They were hanging out with their friends, and I had about 4 or 5 musicians, an engineer, and so I played some music, and then I just fell in love. It was a fantastic moment.
So happy for you.
Yeah.
You bring such joy, such happiness, and again, Thank you for this album. I can't wait to see it live.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know that you did some stuff at the Rose Theater last tour. So, once this is over, are you going to be touring again?
Yeah, we were going to go out in October, but that's all off the
Yeah.
can't do it because, asthmatic and,
Yeah.
I don't want to get in a plane. I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of work to do by the end of the year anyway. And so I'll get that work done. And then I talked about maybe next spring we can go out with 1000 Hands Band. They're fantastic people and they're a blessing to work with. And when I rehearsed with them, it was fantastic because they were very malleable. They would listen and I could come up with ideas to even evolve Yes music a little bit. Doing the new music was fantastic, a lot of fun. It's never that easy. In this life, it's never that easy to do a tour. But everything went okay. There were some ups and downs, and swings and roundabouts. We're just doing some videos now, so we're in touch with each other.
Yeah.
So hopefully next spring we can go out and perform. I would love to perform as many around the world as possible.
It's that kind of music that deserves to be heard around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I just hope it doesn't take 30 years.
No.
Yeah. But John, thank you so much for all the years you've given us from the first album to now.
Thank you.
You've given so much to the world, and we really look forward to getting out of this COVID thing and seeing you on tour. And I can't wait to see it because it's going to be an amazing show. And there are live videos that are on YouTube, and we'll put them also on our website. Of
those videos
some of the
are
new
great
music.
too. Some of the where does music come from? The video on that, I love that. So just all great stuff to you. Thank you so much for being this enlightened spirit and spending this time with us. And
we are the same. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for this album because I literally, again, I find such comfort in it during this pandemic.
You.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye, John.
Bye.
I love him.
All right, everybody.
Ramalam. I love him. I love him. I love him.
Sing some more.
Now, because I haven't.
No, we won't have to pay. If you sing and you sing poorly, we don't have to pay the rights, I believe.
But what if I sing and I sing really good? If I rehearse.
We know that won't happen.
What do you?
No, try it.
Mean.
Try it.
Mean.
Sing.
No, I haven't warmed up the vocal cords.
Actually, we've heard you sing before on some other episodes, and you actually have a nice voice, Rita.
Well, when I can,
Maybe you can join John for Rama Lama on tour when he goes out. And, he comes to LA and he'll let you sing that one song with you. You can be backup singer.
Excellent.
You want to do that?
I'm on.
Okay. Do it.
I can do that.
Keep going.
Part of the song.
Keep going.
I'm not
I
getting
can't
it right
sing that high.
Hey, anyway,
Okay.
we don't want to lose you.
We're gonna
Special
suck
thanks
it up.
for John Anderson, who Zoomed with us all the way from San Luis Obispo for this great interview. Big special thanks to Melissa Dragic Cordero and Ryan Romanesco for coordinating the interview. Special thanks to Michael Jensen of Jensen Communications.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. John's website is johnanderson.com, Instagram, John Anderson Music, and Facebook, The John Anderson. Okay, go ahead, Reese.
There you go.
All right. Every episode, we create show notes on our guests and about the subjects they talk about. If you go on the one for John, you're going to see brand new videos and other links to things that he talked about. You can also order the special limited edition colored vinyl of the new 1000 Hands album. Go check all that out, and you can find it under the show notes under each show title on our website.
I hope you enjoy the album as much as I did. I love it. It's like a great meditation. In this pandemic time when we all need something special. Just saying.
Something peaceful, right? Om.
All right. Well, we ask for your help. If you listen via iTunes, please write a quick review and rate and subscribe the podcast, y'all.
On Facebook, please follow, like, and share us with your rock buddies, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
Tweet.
Tweet.
Keep rocking.
Thanks for listening again, as always.
Namaste, bitches.
Bye.